announce our first speakers in this session. Professor Edita Čulinović-Herz and Ms. Sara Madžar Matijević. They're both from Department of Commercial Law and Company Law Department of Company and Commercial Law, Faculty of Law Rijeka, and their topic is strengthening the role of the corporate culture in digital age, how to bridge the gap between rapid technological changes and missing legal framework. Please, Professor Edita, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I wish all of you good afternoon. And I'm very happy, and me and my colleague who is also present, we are very happy to be able to speak in this precious conference. I also want to congratulate Professor Horak and her team for organizing such a splendid event. So to begin with, I would like to say that the dramatic development of new technologies changes both our society and so does the companies, because if they want to stay relevant at the market, they should quickly adapt to those changes and without losing their trustworthiness, which is, in our opinion, the most precious value. And blockchain, as a representative of distributed ledger technology, is gaining certainly substantial market and academic attention. And in order to show that blockchain solutions are already in the market, let me give you just two examples. So in 2017, JP Morgan and some other financial services providers successfully accomplished a blockchain pilot project allowing proxy voting at annual general meeting of shareholders. And we have also another example which is more close to our Croatian hearts, let's say. In 2019, there was an equity token offering campaign of Grape Bike DO, which has its controlling shareholder Rimac Automobili, which we all know. And in this blockchain campaign, they collected 1.4 million euros of equity capital through the blockchain platform. So there is also a fact that the blockchain technologies are also vividly discussed in the legal doctrine. Not only on a general level, discussing a relation between a blockchain and the law, but also on a more specific level, discussing corporate law issues and the blockchain. And the list is really very, very long. So what we notice, me and my colleague, is that hard law does not keep the pace. So far, there have been only few regulatory actions in respect of blockchain-based securities. And we also notice that there is obvious a great legal gap, and we ask ourselves, how should companies adapt to those changes in this under-regulated environment and retain their trustworthiness, which is very, very precious. So in our research, we decided to focus on a relation between a blockchain and the shares as securities. And for this purpose, we, of course, needed more information about blockchain technology. So I would like to give you a very short lawyer's understanding how this blockchain works. So if we are dealing with the shares, we can make an example that the person A wants to transfer 1,000 shares of some company to person B. And basically, these essential elements of transactions are put into the block, and the block gets its so-called unique digital fingerprint, which identifies both the block and its contents. And after that, it gets its hash. And the hash is something that, in fact, turns the text into the string of bytes. So after that, this block is broadcasted to the network of computers, which in our case could be market participants. And these computers are in technology called data points or nodes. And before this block is added in a chain, these computers or data points or nodes should give their approval, which is called network consensus. And after this network consensus is being gained, each computer in the network adds a new block in the chain, and this block becomes immutable and visible to all participants in the network. So this might look very plain and very simple, but we identify a few very important differences between conventional model of recording data and the blockchain technology. For example, in conventional model, data are recorded centrally, and in the blockchain, they are recorded at the level of every network participant. Then, in conventional model, previous record is replaced by new record, and in blockchain, new record is simply added in a chain and it remains there forever. It cannot be removed, it cannot be altered. So data records are transparent and visible to all network participants and any times, and consequently, because the data are recorded at the level of every computer in the network, blockchain technology appears to be very resistant to malicious attacks from the outside, because there is no single point of attack. The person should have attacked all computers in the network, all data points, and all blockchain. So then we take a look to the blockchain laws in Europe or wider, and this list is not very long. So, for example, the first one we found the France in 2016 by so-called Loi Macron that introduced a possibility to register mini bonds, and mini bonds are securities issued by limited liability companies, that these securities could be kept and transferred in a blockchain. Importantly, they never extended that to the listed securities. Then it is an example of US, namely US state Delaware in 2017. They allow that the company shares registry could be also run on a blockchain technology. In 2018, Malta joined this group, but the Malta approach, legislative approach, was quite different, because they decided to regulate the whole blockchain industry, and therefore they impose some operational requirements on blockchain firm. And what's more important, they introduced a special supervisory authority, which is called Digital Innovation Authority, and their task is to supervise the blockchain services market. Namely, Malta is strongly wants to become a blockchain resort in Europe. So it's a kind of a regulatory competition. And the last example of those laws which regulate blockchain comes from Luxembourg, which is not surprising, because Luxembourg is center of investment fund industry. And what is very important in this law is that, in fact, for the first time, tokens were made equal as any other conventional securities. So this is a quite a new thing. And Germany, which is a Croatian role model, they were very observant to blockchain. Last year, they came with a national blockchain strategy, where they practically say that blockchain technology would be allowed to only for debt instruments and not the equity. But if this project will be proven successful, then it would be probably extended to all other securities. And what now we could see is that this approach from the last year is now accommodated in the draft law, in corresponding draft law, which is called Draft Law for Introduction of Securities in Electronic Form. So our next step was to detect consequences or implications of application of blockchain technology from the pro and con side. So first, if we see a blockchain technology as a technology which allows visibility and immutability, then the ownership track record in shares would be visible at any time. And as a result of that, shareholders will lose their anonymity. And of course, as a result of losing anonymity, money laundering and tax evasion would be strongly discouraged. And this could be in line with the public interest, of course. But on the other hand, some shareholder obligation to disclose, like this is, for example, disclosing major block of shares or voting rights in a listed company, would simply become obsolete because everything will be available on a blockchain. And there are some authors even who believe that the shareholders will be able to monitor corporate agents in real time, and that some new paradigms will come to life. On the contrary side, we have a problem because tokens, except in Luxembourg, are not legally equal to securities, and we also might ask ourselves whether this anonymity, whether losing anonymity is the goal shareholders want to achieve in the first place. Because the more identity becomes digitalized, the bigger is the risk of the identity theft. So there are several data protection issues which should be solved before this blockchain is put into the praxis. And our last point is how to bridge this legal gap, because we saw that many jurisdictions have taken so-called sit and wait approach, waiting for the proper time to regulate blockchain. And we found very interesting proposal in a doctrine saying that listed companies as the most probable users of blockchain should establish independent so-called tech committees, which would consist of neutral technological experts who will monitor conflict of interest in respect of blockchain. So we might ask ourselves what could be the source of conflict of interest in that respect. And let me come to my last point. So the people who are in fact in company giving inputs to the software people, let's say it very in generic way, they might be tempted to give inputs which will best fit their own interest and not necessarily the interest of the company. So these committees should monitor this conflict of interest. And our last point is that the role of corporate culture should be strengthened. We think that the corporate leaders should stress the importance of ethical values and to ensure that these values are clearly incorporated in company soft law, such as corporate governance codes, rule books, protocols, etc. And we also think that the corporate leaders should ensure that managers and employees are given ethical education, which will help them to navigate through this under-regulated environment. And if this education is so-called external, then we think that it could be provided by universities through lifelong study programs. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are our findings, and we would be happy to have your comments and to exchange the views. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Čulinović-Herz, for this very interesting topic. This technology is coming, and this is definitely the future, because the possibilities with this technology are opening some new horizons, and yeah, it's probably things that will be regulated in the very soon.